Hello divers and welcome back to another video, or should I say non-divers, because if you clicked on this video it's likely that you are considering diving but are not yet a diver. So if you are thinking about getting into diving and if you've ever wondered what it's like to explore the underwater world, stick around because in this video I'll guide you through everything you need to know to get started with scuba diving, from training to gear to the certification process and beyond. So if you're interested in getting into diving, watch through the end and you should have a good understanding of how to start your scuba diving career, whether it's something you just want to check off as a bucket list item or something you want to start getting into full time. So if any of this describes you, you've come to the right place, so stick around. So I guess a good place to start would be to ask ourselves this question, and that is, what is scuba diving exactly? Scuba diving is, well, scuba stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, and at the end of the day, all it is a way for humans to survive underwater. Breathing air or mixed gases of one variety or another underwater allows us to see a world that we otherwise wouldn't get much exposure to. You know, we can snorkel, we can watch, footage of the underworld world on TV or in movies, but really getting down there and breathing on your own offers a different sense of connectedness to the underwater world that you really can't get any other way. It allows us to really connect with nature, as any diver will be able to tell you pretty much off the cuff. 70+% of the world is covered in water. So getting the opportunity to get underneath the water, whether that's fresh or salt, oceans or lakes or ponds or rivers, it really gives us a sense of adventure and access to an ecosystem that we just wouldn't otherwise see. So scuba diving gives us a way, an avenue to get underwater essentially and stay underwater at least for a fixed amount of time. It gives us the ability to move around pretty much in 3D, which is another thing that we don't experience quite as much as I think we like to imagine. And while you can try to do this on your own without any certification or training, for most people it involves a level of initial certification through one of any number of certifying agencies. So what we're going to talk about next is getting that initial certification and giving you a sense of who and what is involved and why you should get certified. So some people like to refer to dive certification as a diver's license, almost like a driver's license. And really what it is at the end of the day is a training and licensing course. Most people tend to stick to the big 3 or 4 agencies depending on their interest and really depending on where they're located. And getting a certification does have its benefits, and while there are no dive police walking around pulling people out of the water making sure they're certified, there are going to be a lot of doors that are closed off to you if you don't have a certification. Without getting certified, traveling will be difficult. You won't be able to rent gear, you won't be able to get insurance if you have an accident, if something goes wrong and you're not certified. There could be a gap in the treatment and the coverage. Most places are not going to give somebody, you're not going to be allowed on a charter, you're not going to be allowed on dive trips without certification. And really what it comes down to is getting certified is for your safety and for the safety of everybody you may or may not be diving with. And most people, like I said, tend to go through really a couple of agencies. There are a whole bunch. There are many local and national organizations, but there are a few internationally recognized agencies that most 90+% of people tend to be certified by, and those agencies are PADI, NAUI, SDI, TDI, and SSI. Now, obviously, each of these agencies has their differences. They all have their similarities. The vast majority of divers globally tend to be certified by PADI just because they're the most easily accessible and the most widely spread. But in general, they all have a very similar pathway. They'll start you with open water scuba diver. You can go into advanced open water, and most of them do have some sort of discover scuba diving class where you can basically go try it out with somebody, and you're not actually getting a certification. You're just seeing if it's for you. Like I said, most places are affiliated with PADI, and really what you'll find is that whether you go to a dive shop or a resort, they'll tend to have one affiliation. They'll be affiliated with one agency, but that's not to say they can't be affiliated with multiple. They can offer classes from different certifying agencies. It all depends on who they have for instructors and what kind of diving they're into. Each of them has their benefit and drawback. They all have very different styles. They have different pathways. I don't endorse one versus another. I have some certifications through PADI. I have some certifications through SSI. I have some certifications through TDI. They all have their benefits and drawbacks, like I said. But at the end of the day, they're all accepted internationally. You can travel and get insurance with any of these agencies, and all of them will get you diving safely. And what I want you to keep in mind is it is much more important to find an instructor and a shop that you trust and feel comfortable with than it is to pick a certifying agencies. There are good instructors and bad instructors in each of these agencies, so it's a matter of who you feel comfortable with and who's going to give you the most confidence and the best baseline skill set to get into the water. You know, if you find that your local dive shop is affiliated with PADI and you trust them, then go with them. Otherwise, there are other avenues. You can get certified on resorts. You can get certified on vacation. You can find instructors internationally. There are any number of ways you can get through the certifying process, but I wouldn't pick based on the agency. I would pick based on your instructor and what your goals are. And each of them have an introductory or open water scuba diving class, and it tends to go pretty much the same way, with subtle differences in style and content depending on the agency. So let's talk about what you can expect from your dive class. In general, and most of my experiences with PADI, I imagine it's pretty similar with most of the other agencies, but in general, open water dive class is broken down into two parts. There's the learning, whether that's in a classroom, via a book or videos or online, and then the diving. And the diving itself is generally broken down into two parts, and that's confined water and open water. So as far as the learning goes, the classroom time, it's likely to either be in a classroom with an instructor who is going through the text with you section by section. There'll probably be an end of chapter quiz for each section, and it'll go through like any other class in any other subject, and you'll talk about the material and he'll teach you about the material, or he or she will teach you about the material. There will likely be some modules to do. And then at the end of the classroom portion, there's generally a final exam, and the final exam is going to be pretty comprehensive. And in general, most people either do all of the learning online ahead of time and then have some time in the classroom with an instructor, and there'll be some homework, there'll be some home reading, and then you'll come in and discuss it in the classroom after the fact. What you can do if you live in a colder environment, what a lot of people do is we'll do the classroom time and maybe even the pool sections in their home area, say in New England, and they can get in the classroom time in the pool section, but diving in the ocean is just too cold. Your shop will help you link up with a shop elsewhere. If you're traveling, say, to the Caribbean or the Keys, you can link up with a shop and just do the checkout dives with those people, with that shop. So you can get all the learning done ahead of time with your local shop, but then do the physical diving elsewhere. And for the most part, what you'll run into is a combination of both. So there'll be some homework, some home reading, some home modules, whether that's online or via the textbook, and then classes to discuss and refine your understanding of the subject matter. I'm not going to go too much into the content because that is just too much to cover all at once, and frankly, just not the point of this video. But it'll be some combination of a little bit of dive physiology, physics, skills, and just a general understanding of the safety and techniques related to diving. And so then you get into your diving portion. You know, obviously there's no way to learn diving without actually doing it. And for the most part, these intro or open water scuba diver classes are going to have some time in some sort of confined water. For the most part, especially in colder places, but even in warm places, that means a pool. So your instructor or your shop or your organization or resort or wherever you are will have access to a pool that they can take you into, show you the skills, have you demonstrate the skills back to them, get you familiar with the equipment, get your weighting correct, have you assemble the equipment so you understand how it all works together. And then you'll spend some time treading water, swimming around, diving around, demonstrating the skills, practicing the skills that you have a tough time with, and your instructor will make sure you have a grasp on everything before you're getting you out into open water. And lastly, there's generally some sort of swimming fitness test, which usually involves a swim test of a certain length and a timed water tread. So once you've finished with the confined water portion, now you'll head out into the open water. And again, that usually involves either a quarry or a lake or the ocean. And this is where you will re-demonstrate all the skills you were taught and practiced in the pool. You'll spend some time working again on weighting and equipment configurations and equipment familiarity. Once you get all of your skills checked off on, you'll probably just do kind of an open water dive in a supervised environment, in a supervised manner. You'll follow around either the instructor or dive master, do a little bit of shallow water diving, usually no deeper than 20 or 30 feet, but the open water scuba certification, at least with PADI, certifies you to 60 feet. So once you get your 4 open water dives in and you've successfully demonstrated that you can do all the necessary skills and the instructor has no hesitations about signing off on you, he will sign off, or he or she will sign off, and you will get your dive certification. And like I said, generally in open water scuba certification is good to 60 feet, although some of the organizations sort of combine the open water and advanced open water and just certify you to 100 or 130 feet right away. So for the open water scuba class, you can generally expect it to take somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the situation. If you do it in a colder water environment, it might be spread out over a couple of weeks, or if you do it at a resort, it might take just a weekend. It might take 2 days. They kind of cram things all in at one. You can expect it to cost somewhere between $300 and $600, but again, that'll be situation dependent and really depend on whether you go to a local shop or go to a resort or do a combination of both. Let's talk very briefly about gear. You will need a small amount of gear to get started. Generally, that's mask, fin, and snorkel, and usually boots as well. To get through the class, you'll at least need those basics, and for the most part, you'll use rentals for the remainder. You'll rent your tanks, your BCD, your exposure suit, your weights, and your regulators. Most shops will not expect you to have a complete set of gear, although many people come out of it getting a full set after the class, and many shops actually, ask your local dive shop about this, many shops will give you a discount if you complete the class and then get a full set of gear after the fact. They may give you some kind of a discount, but at least to do the open water class, you'll generally need a mask, fins, snorkel, and more often than not, boots. And your local dive shop should carry all of this, and they can guide you in purchasing it, so don't worry about figuring it out on your own. So how do you get started? What are the first steps? My recommendation would be to find out if you have a dive shop nearby, go in and talk to them. Talk to the owner, talk to the instructors, talk to them about the format of their classes, what they offer, who they're affiliated with, how experienced their instructors are, and just get a sense of what your options are. They may offer, like I had mentioned before, they may offer a Discover Scuba Diving course where you can just check it out. You can try breathing underwater. You can do a little small confined pool dive and see if it's for you. Or if you're ready to just jump right into open water, sign up for the class. They'll generally have you buy the basics for their gear. They'll give you a package with the textbooks and the exam booklets, and they'll tell you when the classroom sessions are. The alternative is, like I had mentioned, you can do the classroom sessions with the pool and open water sessions planned to be done elsewhere at a resort or in a warmer area. Additionally, there's a third route that actually a lot of people go through, and that is if you're on vacation, if you're traveling, or you're on a cruise, or in a resort in the Keys, the Caribbean, or another warm place, you can do the entire thing all at once through the resort. It's generally quicker. It's about the same price. They generally do it over the course of a weekend. You'll do all your pool and information sessions on day one, as well as usually the first 2 open water dives, followed by 2 more dives on day 2. There are pluses and minuses to doing this. This is something else we could take a long time discussing the pros and cons of, but that is a pathway. So And if you're traveling soon, that's an option. If you want to check out, they have options for diving. That may be a good way to go, especially if you just want to do some vacation diving and not really get into hardcore colder water diving. But at a minimum, I would say your best bet is to go down to your local dive shop, stop in, say hi, talk to them about their format and their instructors, what their offerings are, and ask as many questions as you possibly can. So I'll leave you with some final thoughts. Scuba diving is an incredible pastime. It is well worth investigating if you're curious about what it's like to explore the underwater world and see some of the creatures and scenes you've been watching in this video. There are many ways to go about getting certified and learning how to do it. If you are curious, I would say go down to your local dive shop, ask some divers. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to me, you can leave a comment. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I have a lot of experience in the dive community and with dive training, and I should be able to answer pretty much any question you have. So take it into consideration, go check things out, and it's an amazing pastime. It is not something to be feared. It is well worth it, and I think it's genuinely one of the best hobbies you could possibly have. So leave a comment, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, reach out, and safe diving.